I went to work for a temporary company. I'm not going to tell you which one, Manpower. And they placed me in an insurance company for 5 days, a 5-day assignment in the insurance company in the mailroom to help them send out a big mailing, and also they were behind in getting their supplies out. So I was there for 5 days. On the 4th day in the afternoon, the phone rang, and when I picked up the phone, the man on the other end of the phone was crabby. He was angry, actually, at me. He was yelling and screaming. He was calling me names. I had held the phone away from my ear. Now, it was right at that moment that I realized I didn't have to take that on. Because you know what? I know that sometimes I irritate people, but not usually by saying, hello, mailroom, which was the extent of my relationship with that gentleman. Well, you guys will understand why he was so upset. He was calling from Texas, and he had ordered envelopes to send out his policies and, product and stuff. And when he got them that day, they were bent. That's right. He had bent envelopes. And I have to be really honest with you. To a 4-day temporary, that is just not that big of a deal. But to this man, it's a crisis. And my job is to help him. So I said to him, sir, I cannot get you flat envelopes this afternoon. I said, I will overnight them to you, and you will get them tomorrow, and I promise you I will pack them so well that the post office can kickbox them to Texas. And when you get them tomorrow, they'll still be flat. I said, sir, can you hold on till tomorrow for your flat envelopes? And he said he thought he could. So I filled out the order form the way they had showed it to me. And then I presented, I read it back to him to make sure that everything was okay. And then when I got done with that, I asked him if he felt better. And he said, excuse me? I said, sir, when you called, you were very upset. I said, you called me some really interesting names. I said, I just want to make sure, you're okay now. And you know what he said to me? I did. I said, well, sir, that was my perception. And he said, well, I've had a terrible 24 hours. He said, my girlfriend dumped me last night, and I went out and I closed the bars. And I have a terrible hangover this morning, and I didn't hear my alarm clock go off. And I wouldn't have gotten up at all except my mother called me, which is another story altogether, he told me. And I had a presentation to do, and I was late to the presentation, but I thought I was okay because I had the presentation materials in the car, and I didn't. And then when I got to the office, I had bent envelopes. So where'd all that garbage come? On the bent envelope girl, that's where. So you know what? We chatted for like 3 to 5 minutes. That was it, 3 to 5 minutes at the most. Just about a few things, like not a good idea to drink during the week, maybe a different alarm clock, call your mother. Just a few things. These things I know. I did my job that day in customer service because I got him the product he wanted. And I did my job as a person because I helped him to have a better day. And I also know that the people that worked with him owed me money. Because they were going to have a better day. But what I didn't know was that there was this policy at the insurance company, no personal phone calls during work time. And what I didn't know was that the supervisor had walked in just during the last part of that conversation. So when I hung up the phone and she was standing behind me with her hands on her hips and she said, Julie, who were you talking to? So I showed her the name on the order form and she said, my gosh, that's one of the vice presidents of the company. And I, in my infinite wisdom, said, and? And she said, well, and you're a mailroom clerk and a temporary one at that. You shouldn't be having a conversation with him. I think that this company gets uptight about a lot of little things. And there's nothing I can do about this, right? So I said to her, do you want me to call him back and tell him to never call me here again? And I learned right then and there that my supervisor had not yet found her sense of humor. She said, no, just go in the other room and send him his envelopes. So I went in the other room, and I packed his envelopes in 3 boxes, bigger, 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 with a lot of styrofoamy, popcorny stuff in between. But before I finished packing the first box that had all the envelopes in it, I took an extra envelope and I bent it. I actually crumpled it up. I wrote, just kidding. I put it on top of the flat envelopes. Packed it, and shipped it overnight. Now, granted, that could have gone either way. But I had a day left. So what was going to happen to me? Well, the next day, the gentleman sent me a dozen roses. Yeah. And he said, hey, he called, and he said, thanks for helping me realize that those bent envelopes weren't my problem. I said, that's no trouble, sir. I said, do you still have those bent envelopes? And he said, yes, I do. I said, then why don't you put a big book on them? And he said, what? And I said, sir, put a big book on them and they'll flatten out. You'll have more envelopes than you know what to do with. And he said, that's a great idea. Why didn't you tell me that yesterday? And I said, sir, you were not open to the book theory yesterday. He said, I really like your attitude. I'd like you to take my orders from here on out. And I said, I appreciate that confidence, but I'm a temporary and today's my last day. And he said, put your supervisor on the phone. And you know how much she likes me. Well, I was a thorn in that woman's side for 3 years. She had a sense of humor when I left. I think that story has all kinds of great things with it, though. I think one is when we're upset, we have to stop and say, is this a bent envelope? And I think the other thing is that when other people are upset, sometimes we have to recognize that they're not open to the book theory. Sometimes we just need to help each other, and we just need to be bigger about that. And I think that's what humor can help us to do, not personalize things so much, so that we can help each other. I also think the other lesson to be learned there is it doesn't matter what position you hold in life, whether you're the vice president of the company or the very lowest that there can be, a temporary mailroom person, that you have an impact. We all have impact on each other's lives.